Got a funny story about today's game, and it starts at Gen Con 2018, with Board Game Geek having finished its broadcast schedule for the day. We'd packed up all our equipment. Chad Krijan, our advertising manager, and I decided to go out together. I think there was a big group going out, and that would probably be busy for hours, as is often the case. We went to Sugarfire, which is relatively near the convention center. Very low traffic. I highly recommend it, except of course if I do, then you will go there and there will be longer lines. So don't go there. Leave Sugarfire for me. I just want to say that. Food's really good though. The line's relatively short, but don't go there. No, Chad and I finished our meal. We went to the BGG Hot Games Room, which had 300 or 400 games available, where we get games from publishers in exchange for broadcasting a demonstration of their game. Those games go to our library for our November convention, but at Gen Con, people can buy tickets for the Hot Games Room and play them. And if you work for the site, you can go to the room also and play them. And we're looking around for something to play, and we ran across Monster Crunch, the breakfast battle game, which has these guys on the front, which I know these are cereal mascots, but beyond that, I had nothing more than it's a card game. That's all I'd heard. Someone, I thought, said there's some tricky play to it. That's all I got. That's all you got to go on. I was not inspired because I did not eat these cereals. I have no connection to them. There's nothing. This is designed by Force Prison Creative. It's published by Big G Creative. That team in 2017 had released Bob Ross Art of Chill, which is a finely designed game. It was a Target exclusive title in 2017, and this as well is a Target exclusive title. It's built on nostalgia. Target had a lot of those titles in 2017, and not all of them were up to the level of Bob Ross Art of Chill. There was a Saved by the Bell, sort of trivia, memory, Where's Waldo-ish Find Things game, which I've never seen the show. No, that was not good at all. There was the Oregon Trail Hunt for Food game, very random. It was okay. There was a Carmen Sandiego game, which was a fine deduction game. But nothing's really standing out. I had no connection to Carmen Sandiego or the Oregon Trail or Saved by the Bell or these guys. But we're looking for something to play. We said, well, worst that happens is we waste half an hour. And we're not going to try it otherwise. So we got two other BGG people, Beth and John, and Chad and I, we all played. And the first round, we were just like, I don't know about this. But by the end of the game, we loved it. And we played it twice more with different groups of people, with other BGG people, with Lincoln and Jennifer and Scott. And we were playing on this, and suddenly all of us were just talking about this game because A, it was one of the few things we actually played at the show, and B, it was surprisingly good for a game that I had no expectations other than it was sort of a nostalgia tie-in, which, who knows? Those games can be all over the place. It's very hard to judge sometimes, although Force Prison Creative is kind of hitting the mark here with the Villainous game from Wonderforge. They also had the Jurassic Park Adventure Danger game, Jurassic Park Danger Adventure Strategy game, whatever that was, from Ravensburger, which was nicely done as well. So Force Prison Creative is sort of hitting this target with good game design that happens to be tied in with nostalgia rather than something nostalgic that's driving the rest of the game. So what is this game? Why would you want to play it? Each of the 2 to 5 players in Monster Crunch is going to take a bowl. You're going to take a deck of cards, and you have 2 special powers associated with the characters. The decks are all the same. They have the numbers 1 to 12 with 3 copies in each deck. Those are identical. The 2 special powers that you get for a character are unique to that character. You can use them once during the 3 rounds of the game, and then it goes away once you use it. Everyone starts with 1 milk. And your goal in the game is to eat the most cereal, which is represented by cards. Part of the reason why I think Chad and I had an initial poor assessment of Monster Crunch is we were thinking of it as a goal of going out. You wanted to be the first to play all your cards, and that's all that mattered. But it's not. You have to play more cards over 3 rounds than each other player. If I can play 11 cards and have only 1 card left, that card's thrown out of the game. It doesn't count towards my score. And as long as I do that each time and the same person doesn't win each round, getting 12 cards down, then I could probably win. So you have to think about that. Not going out necessarily, but getting that cereal into your bowl. Additionally, we didn't catch on to the terminology, the actual mechanisms of the game initially. And we weren't thinking of it, I would say, along the right lines. Now, Monster Crunch is a ladder climbing game. And if you have played Tishu or another ladder climbing game, you know what that means. If not, well, you can learn it pretty easily, but it didn't click initially, so we weren't playing like a ladder climbing game. We were playing differently, which seems a little odd because once you hear the description, you might think immediately ladder climbing, although I've already said it 6 times, so of course you're going to think of ladder climbing. But we didn't think of it that way. So you got to get your head in the right space. And then once we played again the second time and the third time at that same convention and that same night, and now that I've played, I think, 9 or 10 times, now I've got this fully cemented and I'm in the right framework. And again, it's sort of instructive of why you should not review a game after playing it once, because you have a poor idea of what you're going into. As much as you read the rules and can comprehend the rules, you don't know the game until you've played it. And then you don't really know the game until you've played it knowing what it is. And then you can attack the game differently. Your head's kind of in a different space as you go into play. Gameplay in Monster Crunch is straightforward, and normally you'd have your bowl in front of you. I'm having everything piled up together here just for the purposes of you seeing everything that's being played more easily. So the lead player for a hand of cards, what I like to think of as a meal, and there's 3 meals in the entire game, is going to put 1 or more cards into their bowl. And the next player has to match or exceed that total. So Count Chocula puts a 1, Frankenberry can put a 2. Now, to put down 2 cards, you can't just drop those 2 cards, you have to add milk. Help you choke down all that cereal that you're going to eat. So you must play a milk card, and in addition, the cards that you play must be either sequential or the same number. So I could put down 2 2s or 2 1s even to match the total of 2. And when I put this down, I say a total of 5. This is how you're going to play more cards and empty your hand more quickly. However, everyone starts with only 1 milk. Maybe Booberry plays a 6. Yummy Mummy, for whatever reason, maybe they don't have a higher number, maybe they've got bigger plans, they decide to pass. And when you pass for the round, you get milk. And even though the rules don't say this, traditionally we put it in the bowl, just to indicate you have passed for the round. When you pass, let's say we go back to Count Chocula, also plays a 6. Okay, you just keep adding that cereal into your bowl. If Frankenberry passes, they take this card and they put it aside. Assume it's going down their esophagus now, into the stomach. And they put milk in the bowl. Fruit Brute passes. These go out. Milk. Pass. You get only 1 player left in the round. They eat their cereal, but no milk for them because they're in a rush. They're going to go and place something new onto their empty bowl while everyone else takes their milk and puts it aside for use later. Each player has 2 powers unique to them, and they can use those powers when the power indicates it. So usually it's before playing or after playing, and it says that on the card. And they will do different types of things. So Count Chocula has one where now instead of rising, we're going to play lower or equal to what's been played before. Okay, so you flip things around and make it where people couldn't play when they thought they could play. Especially if you lead with 2 1s or something like that. Now you can only play a 2 or lower. And you hope to just ditch cards that no one else can follow up on. Or there's a power where you say even or odd and people can play cards that are only even or only odd based on whatever you said. Booberry draws 2 cards and adds it to their hand. And it seems like kind of a dumb power because you're trying to get rid of cards, right? But no, you are trying to eat cards. And if you get more cards in your hand, then you might have the ability to make more combinations, more pairings or sequences with the cards you have. Because if you have more milk, you can play more cards. I can play 3 cards if I have 2 milk. So I can play a 7, 8, 9 together and a total of 24. See who's going to top that. Or if I had 4 milk, I could play 5 cards together in sequence. You can do whatever you want as long as you have enough milk to choke down all that cereal. Other powers available. Oh, in addition, Booberry, now that they've drawn those 2 extra cards, going to the final meal, they're only going to have a hand of 10 cards, which means they will be more likely to go out first just because they have fewer cards to get rid of. At least that's how it works in theory. It may or may not work that way. Frankenberry has a power where if they have no milk, they can just take a milk. Okay, that's straightforward. Or they can spend a milk to pair any two cards together, whether they're sequential or identical or not. They're all little unique, rule-twisty powers that you use at some vital time, which you won't know what that is until you actually play the game. You sort of get a flow for what's going on with the cards. As soon as someone plays their final card in the meal, or last card in hand, the meal ends immediately. Everyone eats whatever is in their bowl, and if you have any cards left in your hand, they just get thrown away. So your score drops by whatever that is. You had 36 minus 2. So at most now, Fruit Brute score is 34. You then take a new hand of 12 cards, and the player who ended that meal by having no cards in hand will begin the next one, playing whatever they like, with everyone keeping whatever milk they have at the end of that meal. Another big change in the game came when we realized that not only was this a game of hand management, in which you're trying to assess what other players have, which you can do. If you want to track everyone, you can do that because you see all the cards played. The only cards you don't see are the cards thrown out by players at the end of a meal if they don't get to eat them. So you have some mystery there, but otherwise you see what everyone plays, and you know that everyone has the same 36 cards, 1 to 12, 3 times. So if you start around and you only have terrible low numbers that just don't work for you, well, you know you're getting the high numbers later. So there's compensation in how that randomness works. But aside from the hand management of the cards themselves, where you're trying to assess what people are playing, it's also a game about milk management, which we didn't initially appreciate. Because once you run out of milk, you are stuck playing only one card at a time. And you can get shut out quickly when other players are playing pairs and then climbing above 12, because you have at most a 12 in your hand, unless you got Blueberry's power, which lets you double any single card and blah, blah. There's all sorts of little, variables based on the powers, but generally you get locked out. So you start to assess more how you should play a particular hand. And this varies a lot if you have 2, 3, 4, or 5 players, especially with 2. 2 is like a totally different game than the 3 to 5 player game. With 3 to 5 players, you're trying to assess when to pass. When's a smart time to pass that you think people will possibly play a little bit more, but not too much more. You don't want to pass quickly, and then the other 4 players keep playing cards and play cards and play cards, and they don't really climb the ladder up to high numbers. Because if everyone goes 1, 1, 1, 1, and you pass, and they go 2, 2, 2, 2, and then 2, 2, 2, 2 again, which they could do in theory, they could end up playing a huge number of cards, and you're just sitting there with your one lonely milk. So, when do you pass? When do you push up with the numbers to try to force other people out? And then when do you actually use that milk to play combinations and stay ahead of people? And it's all a big challenge, and you only start to see that with additional plays, and you see how people manage their hands, and you see what people are playing, and you track better what people have left, especially in that final meal, when you can sort of keep track. That person's played 2 12s, they played no 12s, they played this, da, da, da. You get a little sense of who has what and what powers people have available to them, and the more that you see that, the more that you get a handle on everything. And I feel like I say that about so many games. I don't know why that's new, except it was new again. I had to rediscover that for this particular game, or at least just have that experience again of thinking something was just like, I don't know, and then giving it another chance, right? Finishing that first game when initially we thought it was going nowhere, and then going beyond that and playing more and more and more. And now, for 3 to 5 players, I think it's a super fine game that would be awesome in a box half this size. So I'll have to cut this down. But the 2-player game does not function like the 3 to 5 player game, mostly because as soon as one player passes, the round's over, right? There's no more trick. There's no more card playing. Everyone just clears their bowl, the other player wins, and they play what they want, which kind of loses a lot of the game, because a lot of it is that tension between trying to rise to the right amount and pass at the right time and play the right numbers and sort of get rid of the junk in your hand so that you can have combinations and hopefully combo out quickly and surprisingly, while other people think the round will last longer. And you lose a lot of that with 2 players just because pass, it's over, clear your bowls. And then 1 player plays, pass, clear your bowl. I played 3 times with 2 players, and in 2 of them, I did not use my powers at all. All it is, and I won both of those. Experience counts. I will say that. It felt like it lacked something with 2 players. And it's just that dynamic play against other people where you're unsure how high you're climbing on that ladder before your turn comes back to you. And you're taking that assessment all the time with the cards and trying to figure things out. So, there's Overview Monster Crunch. Played on a review copy from Big G Creative now 9 or 10 times. I really like it. And, again, I should be careful. Don't judge things before actually playing them. Why do I have to learn that lesson again? Over and over and over.